Welcome to Channel 17, the Town of Colonie Government Channel.
Hi, I'm Supervisor Paula Mahan, and welcome to Colonie Connect. Today, we have two special guests with us, Joe LaCivita, Director of Planning and Economic Development, and Jean Donovan, who is an assistant in the Supervisor's office. And our topic for today is the Comprehensive Plan Review. The Comprehensive Plan was adopted in 2005, and Joe and Jean both served on the committee, and they are going to discuss some of the purpose of the review, the makeup of the committee, and the focus of the review. So I would like to take this opportunity to say hello, Joe, Jean.
Thank you.
Welcome. I'm glad you could be here today. I know you both worked very hard with the committee to review the comprehensive plan. And the plan was adopted in 2005. And the vision was projected out to, I believe, was 2020.
Correct.
So the plan itself called for a review within 5 to 10 years.
That's correct.
And as a group, we came to the consensus that it would be good to take a look at the plan, how it's progressing, and what are some of the long-term goals that need to be accomplished. And it would be in our best interest to take a look at it sooner than later. And that's what happened. So you both worked on the committee and put together a very diversified group. And there are various implementation stages throughout the entire plan. So maybe we could talk a little bit, just back up a little bit, and Joe, you could start by telling us a little bit about the comprehensive plan's purpose, and then what the various actions are that have been implemented, and why we're looking at this now as to where we're going in the future.
Sure. And I think Jean can certainly attest to the fact, being chairman of the planning board for a couple of years. The comprehensive plan is a governing document in which we adhere to, because regulations were set. It kind of set the vision as to how the town progressed for its planning purposes and so on. And we have other documents that we have to adhere to as well. So those were the type of things that they're living documents. They can't be sitting on a shelf. They have to have periodic reviews to see where we're going. Are we hitting the right targets? Are we hitting the milestones that were projected? Were the assumptions that were made during those time frames really real? Was development progressing as the process that was decided? And that's why we got together with the Comprehensive Plan Committee and really wanted to look at, was that targeted date, that 2020 out year, was it real? Were we meeting those milestones again? And was development progressing the way we were looking towards? And were we missing anything along the way in our planning processes? But the implementation actions during the course of that plan were devised at an immediate action, which was like a rezoning. Then it looked at 1 to 2 year actions, and then it went out 2 to 5 years, and then 5 to 10.
And as with all plans that are put into place, the plan, it's very difficult for it to be successful if it's not monitored continually, so that you can see the progress, and if you have to make some adjustments along the way, you'll be able to make those interventions, because you're looking at it on a daily basis, a monthly basis, whatever. So it's very important to do these types of reviews, and we do them with a lot of different policies that are in town, or plans that are in place. You mentioned there are other plans that we have to follow as well. I'm thinking of the land use law, which is that's a major undertaking just to implement and to understand, but it has to be looked at. It's a lot of work, but those things have to be done, and such is the same with the comprehensive plan. And I know there was a lot of thought put into the makeup of the committee. Jean, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the organization of the committee and the thought process that went into the particular development of the committee, as it came to be.
Paul, I know when we sat down and originally talked about forming the committee, one of the things that you emphasized was the need to have a broad spectrum of community involvement. And we attempted to do that, and I think we were successful. We had members, community members, plus some of them were senior citizens, so we had a senior representation there. We had Christine Carey from our Senior Resources Department as a member. We had the youth and recreational areas covered with Alicia Ozier, who is our head of community services. And we had the business community involved, so plus our town employees that were involved with the comp plan. So I think we had about 13 to 15 members on the committee, 2 ad hoc members, and it went very smoothly. It went very well. We had 10 hearings, I believe. Most of them were at the Public Ops building. We had one at the crossings during the day, so some of our seniors who couldn't maybe not get out at night and drive could come during the day. We had hearings and 2 at Town Hall. So overall, I thought it went very well with the members that were there. They were enthused. Every member was enthused, and it worked well.
And of course, all the members were volunteering, their time after hours, and so, it's great that we have people that will offer to do that, and not only our employees, but also people in the community, as you stated. And I think also another part of that is, and you may have touched on this, but that we looked at the total demographics of the town to try to get people from different areas that lived in different parts of the town, which is, it's important to get that objective view as to how things are working in their particular area. And how about the process of the committee? Like, what exactly did you start with? The mission statement, the focus of the whole plan?
We looked at 3 particular aspects of the plan. One was the vision, one was the implementation, the long-range, short-range goals, and the other was the goals. And it really seemed that we spent a lot of time on the implementation of the plan, because members were concerned. We live in a different economic time than we did when the plan was first adopted. So there were different, I don't know what word I want to use. There were different reasons why we could not look at the plan and implement some of the things in the fashion that was originally prescribed. So I think overall, and Joe, you can add to it, I think that the implementation of the plan was probably where we spent most of our time.
That was the targeted area. I mean, we really had to look at what were the projections again at that time. Again, 2005 was a different economy. 2008, when we got into this, or when it started to really progress with the change in the land use law and everything else, we started to see a little constriction when it came to development. So we really had to see is what we were trying to do, how we were trying to move development through the town. We came up with redevelopment regulations. We started looking at the various things that we really needed to be a little bit more business friendly than we have been in the past. But again, we really had to look at what was targeted, what were the milestones that were projected, were we meeting those milestones, were we meeting the actions as well, and what were we not planning for? Like, for example, just up the Northway, we got global foundries. Back in 2005, that really was just a vision at the time. Then all of a sudden you started to see shovels go into the ground. So we had to make sure that we were positioning the town to be part of that. What's going to happen with global foundries coming? Are we planning ahead to get that technology here and be on the short list for development?
So there were several things that you focused on. I mean, as you said, the implementation was major, as well as looking at how it fits in today's world, because things are changing. So, and that's when you have a long-range plan like that, very often, as you move along, what you plan for you need to add on to it, because you get to a certain point where things happen around you, and so you've got to adjust, you've got to modify. There are a lot of things in the plan, I know, that in reviewing it, that a lot of goals that have already been accomplished, and a lot of focus on keeping Colonie a great place for recreation for families, and looking at the uses along the waterfront projected out in the future. How can those areas be utilized in a way that they're preserved and yet they're user friendly to our community. So those things were looked at, as well as the type of development that's out there now. So it's again, it has the title of comprehensive, which tells us that it includes just about everything. But as you say, things are changing, and I know we've also looked at the area around Route 5. The plan itself took a look at, or had requested the town to take a look at the areas in town that may have been built first and are aging, and what types of interventions can be put into place,
Right.
so that we kind of look at it in sections as to what needs should be met first. And one of the areas I know that you've identified is the Route 5 corridor, and there has been some work in that area.
Well, Joe's office has accomplished, they put together an inventory plan for us on the Route 5 or Central Avenue corridor, which is the first step for our next step, which is going to be the revitalization of the avenue.
Yeah.
And now we have an inventory study of the avenue, which we didn't have before.
Right, so that was going on simultaneously with the review. And I know that we've had, on the corridor already, we've had some good progress with some redevelopment there, and some abandoned buildings taken down. We've had some changes with some of our, motels and things like that. So a lot has been done already, and the state has done some work there on the highway, and CDTA is implementing a new bus plan, the Bus Plus, which is going to make the rides much more efficient and faster. So a lot of things going on in that particular area.
One of the things, Paula, too, of that area, the plan talked about enhancement of our gateways, and that was accomplished between Northway Mall and Colonie Center. We had some improvements there, and that's considered one of our gateways, so the improvements were done there. So,
yes. And I know we've had some discussions with the state on that. The state helps us to put these things in place, and one of the things is finding out what works best in this climate. We just actually put a new gateway, the state did, on Route 7 by the Exit 6. And we've learned from Route 5 that certain types of trees and things do better in this climate, do better with the salt that we have to put on the roads and things like that. So, those improvements we continue to look at. Once again, it is comprehensive and covers an awful lot of territory. I'm sure, Jean, that and Joe, as you've gone through the review, that people may have had an emphasis on certain interests or maybe some concerns that needed to be addressed. Can you both identify some of those?
well, I think one of the things that was very interesting is the efforts made to balance the needs of the residential community with the business community, and that was discussed in depth at these hearings. And I think that it was positive because both sides understood the needs of the other, and I thought that was a very positive aspect of the discussion.
Absolutely, and one of the things you also note about the town is that we border urban settings.
Yes.
And as the town started to develop, you started to see those urbanized needs started to move into a suburban setting. And as our land use law and our comprehensive plan was developing, they kind of tried to develop the town into that urbanized setting, which is a very tough thing to do, especially when you have major corridors that we just discussed, the Route 7, the Route 5, 4 lanes of traffic. You really got to be careful as to how you develop and how you start to plan ahead. With that to try to get those needs. Yeah,
it's a different setting than that we would see in a city where you have sidewalks everywhere and street lights on every corner, or I should say traffic signals on every corner. So the traffic is slower. A lot of time, most of the time, one lane, and it's meant for pedestrians. A lot of walking here and there, and there are some areas in town where we could utilize the concept of connectivity. For example, when we're looking at building new developments that may be close to others, and how do we connect them so people can take a walk or ride their bikes, whatever. And we've also taken that into consideration if there's a way that some type of business development is going up. If there's an opportunity for connectivity, which I know the comprehensive plan calls for, we've tried to, you know, take advantage of that and really make it so that there is an opportunity for people to, you know, get out and get some exercise and walk around. But in some areas it's more difficult than others, and most of the time it's the makeup of the highway and the speed of the traffic and what it's really meant for. And we have a little bit of everything in the town of Colonie. There's a lot of history, and you go back in time, and a lot of farmland all over, a very, very different landscape than today. And we also have the, you know, we were one of the main areas for suburban lifestyle, and so great developments that mirror, you know, images of a suburban community. And then we have a lot of business and commercial in our town in areas that are more conducive to that. And one of the reasons, I think, is because we're so strategically located. We just have a great location. You can get anywhere in a few minutes here or there, and you're on a major highway going in any direction you wish, and we're close to the airport.
Correct.
So there's a lot going on there that contributed to that particular type of development. But we pretty much have it all. We still have some farmland left. We live in the suburbs, and we have the conveniences of some of the major cities. So we're pretty fortunate in that.
We are.
You know, and a couple other areas on that same note that I know we're right now we're doing the Railroad Avenue study.
Yes.
And we're doing the study between, I think it's, what is it, between on Route 32?
Route 32
Between
is that
Mahan
study,
Road
yes.
and the Arsenal?
Correct.
And so, so we've got other areas of town that we're working very hard in.
Very good. And well, part of that too is directed by the land use law. And the land use law was updated in 2007.
Yeah.
And how does this plan coincide with the land use law? Jean, you were chair of the zoning board for many years.
That's right.
And you've seen many changes with the land use law. Can you see how the two coincide?
Well, the comp plan really serves as the basis for the land use law. They have to be compatible. You can't have something in your land use requirements that is contrary to the goals of your comp plan. So what we're seeing now, I think, in the land use law, and since it was adopted in 2007, and of course I wasn't with the town in 2007, but what we're seeing is a land use law that, according to what we've heard from some people, has not lived up to the expectations that some people thought it was going to live up to. So we're trying to address those issues as it goes along, but it's a huge document, it's a new document, and we deal with it on a daily basis.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, you know, you think everything is all going well, and then somebody brings up an issue that throws us into a turmoil. Right?
But to those documents you just mentioned, the comprehensive plan and the land use law, when you think about the progression and how the town developed, when the economy was much freer, we developed at a high pace of development. We defined our corridors, and then came the comprehensive plan and the land use law. So we were left with, but now granted the land use law or the comprehensive plan talks about density and what is left as vacant land.
Yes.
But our corridors were so defined
right.
that you really only had infill development where you could do it. You had developers much preferably to go to the virgin land that they could actually put the shovel into the ground quicker. And then you started looking at parcels of the town or parts of the town that started to go on downward decline. But again, they were in defined corridors, our Route 9, our Wolf Road, and
Yes.
everything, those areas. So we had to look to try to push development back to how are we going to take down a downward, a mall that was in downward decline? How are we going to make developers really look at those parcels in just as equally eye as they did as the vacant land?
Yeah, and that's tough. We have accomplish some of that. One perfect example is the Fresh Market.
Right.
That plaza was a site that was very underutilized and not very appealing to the eye. And it really was at a strategic point in the Latham part of the town of Colonie. There was a gateway there.
That's correct.
And to look at it now, it's just amazing. It's transformed into one of the more beautiful spots in the town. And it's also accomplishes that goal of giving people an opportunity to walk around to some of the stores and be in a safe setting where you don't have to worry about the traffic and you can get from store to store. They're moving fast on the remainder of the plaza, and the Fresh Market has been a major success. And you know, those are the challenges of attracting developers to those areas that we'd like to clean up, but they've got a lot of work to do with them. And another area we've been working on for 3 years is trying to find something that would work well in the Latham Mall area, and the Tobin site as well. That's another one that's very challenging.
There's a number of sites that have fallen into decline, and I know we're working hard with them. We're working with developers right now on the Latham Mall site. They're packaging it together to see what we can do. We were very successful working the past several months for the Starlight Music Theater. We're going to start to see an office park there. And I think that's part of, I think, the success of the Fresh Market. When you look at the land use law, once again, we had to make a change to the land use law, and very quickly, because there was an incentive fee zone in that land use law that talked about, we'll incentivize you, you know, if you can't meet the green space of 35%. That incentive translated to $500 and something thousand worth of fee, and the Fresh Market, first time to New York State, said we'll find another place
it's unheard
to
of.
go. Right. So that's what we were doing with this land use laws. We were pushing development to the bordering municipalities or somewhere else that didn't have these type of constrictions with it. But Fresh Market invests $10 million into the town of Colonie. So now we're starting to see that outward development that's coming. Village of New Loudon is coming. We got Sabro Steakhouse right behind it. So that's a good thing. We're very happy with that.
Yeah, and you know, it is, it seems sensible if you have, you know, open land that's, you know, land's never been developed, that a developer could come in and they can make their design with the green space, you know, much easier. If we want 35%, they know that up front. They can make their design and do what they need to do. But when you're redeveloping and you've got a parcel of land, sometimes it's impossible to get 35%. And if you have people that want to make, you know, something that's really, you know, needs a lot of attention and really would be much better for the town if we could get it redeveloped. It's almost like making them pay a penalty to redevelop it. So I think that adjustment to the land use law was certainly justified and worthwhile, and I'm sure the intentions were good to try to preserve as much green space, you know, as we could. And so I think for that purpose, when it can be done, it's valuable. But we don't want to see boarded up buildings or underutilized sites because people can't afford to pay a penalty because it's impossible to get the green space. So, and that's where that delicate balance comes in, and you know, being a little bit, you have to be a little bit more sensible to the fact that you know, you can't drive people away. One size doesn't fit all, and so.
You know, one of the things too, that if you look at different corridors in the town, and I think particularly the Route 5 Central Avenue corridor that would be east of the village of Colonie, from the Colonie Center down towards the city of Albany. If you looked at our inventory study, which was almost finalized now, you'll see that many of the lots there are small. They're under 10,000 square feet. So how can you ask someone to come in to redevelop a parcel like that, meet a 35% green space, and run a productive business?
Yeah, you can.
And so it makes it very difficult.
Yeah. So again, that was one of those things that you know, for one type of development it works, you know, and for redevelopment it was more difficult. So, and that's where you make adjustments, and in the end it's better for everybody. one of the things in looking at the plan with the review committee, obviously, you know, as I said, there have been many goals that have been accomplished. Joe, maybe you could address what changes were proposed based on the review. What were a few of the changes that came out of the review from the committee?
Well, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, I think one of the things we were looking at through the course of the comprehensive plan, seeing what development was successful, what hasn't been, is we really needed to see how we were, again, positioning ourselves within the town. Mm-hmm. We started looking at, we had to work with our IDA. Our IDA had to become a little bit more progressive than they had in the past. They had to look at incentivizing developers to come, mm-hmm. Because that's the first thing they ask when they come to our doors or they make that phone call. What incentives can we get to bring, 300 jobs to you? And I know we're all about jobs, and we're all about, what's that next office space coming? Because the commercial tax base actually is a better tax base than just having residential homes. It doesn't have the same amount of impact to the services that they provide mm-hmm. than the residential homes do. So again, it's a good complement to have that type of commercial base that comes. So again, we had to engage the IDA, look towards that, and we also had to see what was going on around our community. Again, we had global foundries up above. The comprehensive plan never really talked about high technology or that global technology that's mm-hmm. that's currently going. So that, again, that was looking at what are the incentives that need to go out to these companies in order to attract here in the town, and what do we have to do to position ourselves to be at that table mm-hmm. and try to attract them.
Mm-hmm. That's the same with the SUNY, the tech college
yep.
at SUNY. Nanotech, we have, we're looking at the Fuller Road and the Railroad Avenue according to see how we can work with them and share services.
Right. But the redevelopment regulations that we're currently working through, and that's with the assistance of the town designated engineers as well, we're seeing development at a pace that never really happened before. When you look at Papa John's on the corner of Old Loudon and Route 2, now there was another vacant building in decline for 10 plus years. Mm-hmm. We got that approval done in 8 weeks, and that meant the concept to final, and he had shovel into ground. That's a pace that's not really was ever done here in the town of Colonie for that.
Right.
So we actually had a demolition, and we had the construction of a new building, and we have a total transformation of that corner. And those type of redevelopment regs, developers are happy with that because time is money to them.
Oh, yes.
And it always translates to carrying costs. And if we can shorten that time frame for development under redevelopment regulations, we've seen the success already with the vacant buildings that have come down. Yes. I think to date we've done 12. Out of our list. So we'll continue to move that mm-hmm. towards that.
And of course, along with that, the quality has maintained, the same. The quality of the construction, the infrastructure, everything that needs to be in place for our requirements in
yes.
town, they've all been maintained. And it's a part of everybody working together and really focusing on, taking out duplication and of the same type of a piece of the process that may be done in one department and then the same thing is done in another department. Those types of things have been streamlined. We're working on streamlining the permitting process right now,
yes.
an application process. So as we look at these things, we find places that we can, streamline, improve, and still maintain the same level of quality.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we were looking at too, Joe, if you remember, and Paula, was the review on minor projects, which are projects under 10,000 square feet.
It's another area. Uh-huh.
One of the things that we noted when we first got here was that it took anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks to go through a minor project review. So we sat down and we got the various departments together. We sat down and said, what can we do to minimize the time frame? And we're now down to 5 days, 5 business days of review. We still have some work to do because there's still little glitches, but right now the review has gone from almost a 3-week process to a 5-day
yes.
process, 5 business days.
Much more efficient use of everyone's time. Mm-hmm. Where before we are out of time because our show goes very quickly. We cover a lot of territory in a short period of time. Do we have a projection as to when the next review will be? Your recommendations are going to go to town board, and then we're looking at another 5 years out or so, or we have any idea, or we're just going to just monitor and see where we are in a couple of years? And I know the committee seemed eager to, stay
We did have
together.
we had a very engaged committee.
They really were.
But I
They
think
were
one of the
great.
things that should be known is that out of this, we know there's certain goals that want to be maintained, and that's preserving the integrity of what the town has.
Yes.
The diversified neighborhoods, the commercial base that we currently have, and I think everyone on that committee was truly committed to the fact that they want to preserve the integrity of the town.
right.
We have the safest community in the nation, I believe it is.
Yes, in the
and that's
nation.
something that, again, they want to preserve the services that the town provides, and all that comes with the proper planning
Yes.
and moving forward. And that's exactly what this comprehensive plan did. The committee will still be intact, I think, to move forward. We have it in draft form now, and we're going to be monitoring that as we go forward.
That's great. Great to hear. And I do want to thank you both for serving on the committee and making sure that this big task was made much more manageable and was really done in a timely manner. Appreciate that. And overall, I'd say development is going well. And once again, I appreciate the jobs that everyone's doing. And we are just about out of time, so thank
Thank you.
you
Okay,
for
thank you.
being my guest today. And thank you for tuning in to Colonie Connect.